Hello, and welcome to Adding an Involved Item. The involvements form is used to document all of the various entities that are involved in an activity or incident, including people, other organizations, vehicles, and items. This training will focus specifically on adding involved items. Before we get too far into the training, please note that while we will be using the incident form here, the same process applies to adding involvements on activities as well. To add a new item involvement, click on the Add New link. The item involvement is often used in a slightly different manner than that of the other involvements, so you may see some differences in the sample database as opposed to your own system. In the window that opens, we may see the linked item field. This is where we can either search for or create new item records. Some organizations may choose to make this linked item field a required field, and by doing so, they have consistency in spelling, can reduce accidental duplications, and most importantly, have the ability to maintain a history of that item's involvement in all activities and incidents. Some organizations, though, may also choose to hide this field, preventing users from searching and possibly creating new records that would be saved in the incident data forms. We'll talk more about why this may be the case in just a few minutes. Let's start by using the linked item field to search our database for existing records. You can start to type the name of the item directly in the field to display a list of records matching the characters you have typed. The more you type, the more refined this list will be. But be aware that this will only display the top 8 matches. Clicking the green plus sign will allow you to search the entire item data form, providing you with a more global search method. With either method, once you find the item, select it. You'll notice that the details section will populate with information from the item's record that has been saved in your system. We'll come back to these details in just a minute. Next, we need to indicate this item's involvement in the activity or incident. And if the item has been identified as evidence, check the Item is Evidence checkbox. This is purely an information box, and for the organizations using the ICM or EIM editions of Perspective, which includes investigations, please note that this will not pull or add any of this item's details into the evidence or property form of the investigation. In the Details section, as mentioned earlier, we can see the details that pulled in from this item's general record. If any of these details need to be updated, you can add to or update this information as needed. But just be mindful that this does not update the general record at the same time. This only changes this item's details as they pertain to its involvement in this activity or incident. After completing this form, we will have an opportunity to update the general record if needed. Click OK to add this item. As just mentioned, if you have updated the item's details, you may want to or need to also update its general record. Once added, ensure that this item is selected, and then click on the Go To link. This will take you to that item's record within the item's data forms, where you can edit the general record, ensuring that these updates carry forward should this item ever be involved in future activities or incidents. To return to the incident, click on the Incidents in the navigation pane to go back to where we left off. Let's go through this process one more time, this time looking at how to add an item that does not already exist within your system. This action might be performed in one of two ways depending on your system configuration. If you can see the linked item field on this form, clicking the green plus sign will open up the entity window where at the bottom of the window is the Quick Add button. As seen in our other involvement training sessions, clicking this will open up a new blank item data form, which, once completed, will create a record that will be saved in your item's data forms, and it could be selected again in the future should it need to be involved in future activities or incidents. Also, because this is creating a new record that will be saved in your system, this process should be used as a last resort after exhausting all possible searches so as to avoid creating duplicate records within your system. One other consideration with this method is that the initial security settings of all records you create within Perspective will mirror the security settings of the user who created it. Keep this in mind if you have higher security settings than the majority of other users, because if you do not set these settings appropriately, other users may not be able to see this record, hence another reason why you may have duplicate records within your system. After completing the data entry of a new record this way, click the Save button to close this window and return back to the involvement form. There, you would see the details that you just added and can update the rest of the form as we saw earlier. If the linked item field had been hidden in your system, another method for adding an involved item is to simply complete the data entry in the Details section. As we've discussed before, adding to or updating the Details section does not update the item's data forms. So completing the data entry here will allow you to capture all of the relevant details of the item, which can still be searched on and reported on, but it does not create a record that will be saved within your item's data forms. Sometimes this leads to the question as to why you would want to do this. Let's say that the item involved is a person's wallet, a legitimate item that might be involved in an incident or activity, especially if it had been stolen, but what are the chances of this same wallet being involved again in a future incident or activity? It's probably extremely low or never again. So is there a need to save it as a record within your system? As mentioned, even though updating these details doesn't create a record, all of this information can still be searched on and reported on as needed. So sometimes this is a better option for organizations for capturing item details.